Welcome to Servant Leadership, my weekly podcast. And today I'm also honored to have Brother Bayo with me. Last week was a great time. And today we want to talk about conflicts. Conflict in churches, conflicts in families, conflicts in communities and societies, and conflicts by nations. But we want to focus on general conflict and what we as children of God and as leaders, how we can handle conflicts to our benefit. But first, let me quickly define what conflict is according to dictionary. Conflict is a state of disagreement, of disharmony. It's also a state of open fights and confusion when conflict develops to higher levels. So there are levels of conflict or levels of disagreement which can result in fights, that can result in war, that can result in massive destructions. Anytime we go through conflict, we need to understand what is happening and begin to deal with it. You see, the church is not exempt from conflict. There are conflicts in the churches. Through Old Testament time into the New Testament time, we see Abraham having conflict with Lot. The servants of Abraham had conflict with the servants of Lot as they fought over many things until Lot and Abraham said, let us split and let us go our separate ways. In the book of Acts chapter 6, we also read in the verse 1, Bible says that in those days, as the number of the church increased, there was complaints, there was conflict that rose up between the Hellenist Jews and Hebraic Jews about the daily distribution of food. So conflict is very real. It happens in every church. And every leader needs to know how to handle and to deal with conflict. So I want to discuss conflict. Brother Bayo, in your leadership experience, can you tell us a little bit about conflict? What do we get out of conflicts? Is it good? Is it bad? And what does it produce?
Yes, glory to God. As pastors rightly said, conflict. Now, we have a positive area in conflict, and we also have a negative area in conflict. I want to treat on the positive area in conflict. Just very brief. Conflict is a positive force when it leads, to necessary change by signaling that there's a problem in existence. So it can actually be a good thing because it can actually bring out that is a problem. Like if you see in the Bible, Romans 7, from verse 7 downwards, it talks about the law, that the law was actually brought out, to actually, if the law wasn't brought out, sin won't be revealed. So in that way, conflict is actually a good thing because it helps for character development. Because if you're on your own, there's nothing that will challenge you to actually see the fault in yourselves. So conflict actually makes you to know the problem, and then there can be a solution to it. So conflict in that area, I can look at it from a positive point of view and say that the conflict in leadership, when they conflict, differences, it could be tribal, it could be racial, it could be all different levels, even educational, but all that, it actually challenges and brings out the problem in them that is dormant or that is hidden, and then it could be dealt with.
Fantastic. So by your insight, conflict is not entirely evil. It's not entirely bad. No. There are things we can get. There are advantages to conflict and disadvantages to conflict. And conflict is with us. It happens in families, like I said. You could have spouse having conflict. We have children and parents having some disagreements and misunderstandings here and there. Churches go through the stages of conflict. But now I'm going to talk about how to deal with conflict briefly. And next week, we'll continue on conflict and conflict resolution, how to deal with conflict. Now, to deal with conflict as a child of God and as a leader, you need to be prayerful. I have to push this one first. This is the first thing. You need to be very prayerful.
Yes.
You need to pray about the issues.
Yes, that's it.
Because if you want to handle it with the flesh, then you would not get the benefits of conflict or the advantage of conflict. So you need to handle it spiritually. Get a spiritual basis to it as children of God. The world will want to treat it differently, but in the church, when pastors have issues with leadership or with members, you need to be prayerful. Or if you're a church member and you don't seem to agree with your pastor or fellow leaders, you need to be prayerful. Deep down, go into prayer. Don't take a corner. It's a spiritual thing.
Can I come in there
Yes.
to say something? You said we need to be prayerful. That is number one. Now, in praying,